Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of That Pop Culture Pod. I am one of your co-hosts, Juan Perez, and joining me today, lead designer on the Switch 2, Hunter Crate. How are you doing today, brother?
Oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm doing great.
Same thing but bigger, please. Same thing but bigger.
That's what I'm looking for. I want to be able to play the new Mario Party in 5K Ultra HD. I need the sunbeams to just be beautiful.
Frickin' laser beams.
Frickin' laser beams on my frickin' Princess Peach.
I seen that they didn't really even give us too much information, but honestly, we've talked about this on the podcast before. I think it's actually one of the ones that are out now. By the way, guys, our first time recording since we went live. Round of applause for the boys. But I seen that it's basically the exact same thing, and I'm in that boat of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I love the Switch, and I'm so happy.
I still feel like the Switch was the best console of that generation of games, to be honest with you, just because the accessibility was so good. Like anyone can pick it up and play it. The games are very much Nintendo games, like they always have some sort of feature that makes them a little bit different than other games. With some of the games have the like the accelerometer feature with the remotes and stuff like that. But the game just like the Switch is good for I have a couple nieces and they love their Switch. They play their Switch all the time, and I get as much joy as they do out of it. It's just a console that's good for kind of everybody.
Yeah, that's Jess's main gaming platform is the Switch.
I don't blame her. The Switch has so many good games, and I feel like Nintendo often doesn't lack inspiration for their games. Like, they have formulas that work, and they're very good at putting new twists on those formulas. So, if you get the Switch, and there's just a lot of good Nintendo games that you can play, from like stuff like Legend of Zelda, the Mario platformer games, and there's so many different party games.
One of the things
Mario
I like
Party,
the most
Mario
about it
Kart.
now is that you can get so many fucking games that we grew up playing that were like exclusive to PlayStation or exclusive to Xbox. Like in the early 2000s to 2010s, they just ported them all. And it's like, well, fuck yeah, I'll buy Star Wars for the 85th time. Oh, they have a pack with every one I've ever played? I'll buy that too, fuck it.
Yeah, and they actually finally started to bring about some of those older Nintendo games too that were already on the GameCube and stuff like that, but you couldn't really get them anywhere that wasn't an emulator unless you had one of those really old consoles.
Right.
So being able to play, like, for me, Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, Pikmin 3.
Perfection.
Yeah, the incredible games. They did a pretty good port of them. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Switch. I will probably pick up the Switch 2, not immediately.
Absolutely.
Because I want to see if the everything holds up. I tend to like to wait on new consoles just because I've been burned before. So
I don't
I'll
think
probably
we'll
give it
be able to even buy it anytime after it comes out. Nintendo is just back on that kick where they're like reigning pretty high. It probably won't even be in stores for months after it comes out.
Yeah, it might be similar to when like the PlayStation came out and it was impossible to get it for less than like $800.
Thanks, gamers.
Thank you. We'll have to we could have a whole episode on scalpers.
Oh yeah, scalpers. That's embarrassing. That's what I meant.
Oh, I know what you meant. Everyone knew what you meant.
Yeah, well, there's our first 1-star review. There it is, right there.
To the scalpers.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm not a scammer. I just like to buy stuff at base price and then charge kids on Facebook double. What's wrong with that? 0 stars, 0 stars.
I personally deserve 19 PlayStations, and I had an app that let me order all of them off of the website faster than you. So get
Isn't it a script?
idiot.
Isn't that how they do that? Like they run scripts for that shit?
I think so. I don't know for sure. I
That's
just
fair,
know
true.
It's exhausting. And then it applies to everything. It applies to concert tickets and tickets for football games, and everything is like that now. It sucks.
I actually switched back. Well, I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast yet, but most of my stuff I'm switching back to physical. But one of the main things I'm doing that for is buying concert tickets. Me and Jess like to go to a lot of concerts since we're like, into punk and metal and stuff like that. There are a lot of good bands out right now. we will straight up just walk into a venue and be like, "Can we buy a ticket here?" And if they say no, guess who's not fucking going? I'm not. Like, I'm being so honest. I do not like. I'm not gonna pay Ticketmaster a 10%, 10% fee on top of the tickets. And then if somebody buys them all and then you have to pay him plus the fees, you are out of your mind. Not today.
Yeah, ticket prices have gotten pretty insane, and luckily, punk and metal shows tend to be on the more affordable end, even after all of the scalping that has kind of taken over and Ticketmaster monopolizing the industry.
Well, it depends because a lot of the bands I really like, I mean, they're like popular again now that like, punk, emo, metal stuff like that's kind of cool again. A lot of these bands are, getting back out there and it's been 10 years. So then the anniversary or the album anniversaries, it's expensive as shit. Like way more expensive than if you were to just go see them like, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. Like Hawthorne Heights, me and Jesse every time they come. Like one of the first times we seen them in the long run we seen them, which we did like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times a year for a few years. It was, I think, 10, maybe $15. And then now if you want to go see them, it's like 45 because, emo is like really, really hot right now.
True, a lot of that the nostalgia music is definitely expensive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what band it was recently that went back on tour and the tickets were just absurd and was it My Chemical Romance? It might have been.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like $200 a ticket, and it's like they have like 3 good songs per album. Like it's really not that important. I'm gonna be honest. My Chemical Romance's first album is Booty Cheeks. Speaking of bad takes.
There's your next 1-star review off the rip right now.
Emo Lover 69, 1 star, 1 star.
I am not sending this podcast to Gerard Way anymore. Thanks, Juan. He was gonna love it.
I don't think he was going to, but I will say I do love his comic strips. Great artist, great comic book writer. I just don't, and I love his voice. His voice is so badass. I just don't like his music too much. Like Welcome to the Black Parade was okay, but all in all, I mean, everything else, I mean, the rest of his albums are like kind of cheeks.
Oh, man, no one's going to listen to our podcast ever again after this one.
All right, well, I have actually a lot of music stuff, but before we get to that, why don't we talk about what we've been up to the last few days? I know you have some stuff to talk about, so what have you been up to?
I know I've touched base on it before, just did our horror and oddity show. It was mine and my partner's first craft show we've done together. And it was a lot of fun. I had a really good time interacting with people. I learned a lot about things I do and don't want to do for them in the future. I got to meet a lot of other cool vendors and artists at the location in Monroe. I had a couple big takeaways. Business cards are important. Didn't have those.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that pretty important. The first day, honestly, didn't go super well. Second day went a lot better for us. It was a 2-day event. I definitely will be doing some more in the future. There's some coming up in the summertime. And one of the biggest takeaways for me was, regardless of how well we did or didn't do monetarily, the feeling of making like an original art piece and seeing someone get really excited about it and want to take it home is awesome. Like, it's just such an awesome feeling. A couple people got really excited about some of my watercolor paintings. A couple people got really excited about some of the bows that my girlfriend Bailey had made, and it was awesome. It's cool to see something you spent time on and you think is really cool, and kind of sharing that with somebody else and seeing them get hyped up about something you created. So that was a very cool outlet for that, and I would much rather sell stuff to people and have them enjoy it than just have a bunch of this stuff sit in my sketchbooks or in my craft closet forever. So it was cool. It was a great time.
Well, I sadly I wasn't able to make it out with everything going on. We had family birthday, weather was kind of booty. Money is honestly one of the big things. But I have already reserved one of your art pieces, plus I have quite a bit of your art on my walls already. So I'm pretty excited to add a new one to the collection. Oh, and your sister.
Yeah.
I have one of hers up here too.
Oh yeah, my little sister was there with us, and she made a bunch of like little teddy bears, and she's a very good painter. She was sold some of her teddy bears there, and it was cool. It was a good time hanging out with everyone. My older sister also is very into kind of the vending world for making cool art and stuff like that. So there will be some more of them, and I'll definitely keep the podcast updated for some that are coming up this summer.
I will definitely not miss another one. It's just a lot of bad timing.
Yeah, he thinks about me like Gerard Way. He thinks I'm a bit overrated with my art. The venue was nice. It was in Monroe, Michigan. There was a lot of booths. There was twice as many people this year as last year. We had gone last year just kind of looking around. My older sister was vending there, and we found a lot of cool stuff last year. I spent a good bit of money again this year on other people's artwork.
Give it and take it away.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Godzilla. I'll be talking about that a lot more in this podcast. And I got some really cool original posters for the old school, like Godzilla Japanese posters of specifically like the original Destroy All Monsters movie and the original appearance of King Ghidorah. It was cool. I was happy about that. Got some cool Godzilla stickers that some people had made. I will say one thing is the world we live in America right now, I think a lot of people are a bit tight on their money.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was definitely felt just in general. A lot of people were kind of looking. I didn't see tons of people with a lot of different stuff. Like a lot of people would come in and find a couple items and then leave. Like I feel like people were not spending a ton. I think that was a bit hindered by there was a $20 entry fee, which a lot of people will go to one of those, and it's easy to spend $20 if you go anywhere between any
I'd rather
event.
give that money to the artist myself, personally.
Yeah, they definitely I'm grateful that they hosted the event and everything, but they definitely made some bank on it between what they charged for the booths and the $20 entrance fee, and it was packed between. I think there was like over 120 vendors, and there was definitely thousands and thousands of people that had walked through there. Yeah, the other cool thing that happened is our artwork actually got featured a little bit on a local news station. We were painting that I had done and a yarn craft that my partner had done got put on the news, which was really cool. I'll
put it in the Instagram post when we put up the episode, by the way, so people can see it.
All right, yeah, that's a good idea. So it was overall, I would say it was a really good learning experience. And I know a lot more going into the next ones as to like what kind of stuff sells, what doesn't, and what type of stuff I need to do to make it more successful in the future.
Well, I think it's always good to just go straight into it. Like if you just go all in and then just take it from there. I mean, if it's only going to go up, and if things do get better, they probably won't anytime soon. But if they do, then especially for people who go to art fairs like this, you might see a few repeat people. And if they keep seeing you, they'll be like, oh my God, I have more money this time. I really wanted this thing that this artist, the artist I'm talking about. Like, oh, I really wanted this thing. I couldn't afford it last time. Now I can. Boom, you make another sale just because you're there, you're doing it, and you're out there.
Yeah, I recognize a lot of the people from last time, and I had kind of that exact experience. There's a specific booth that I really like the illustrations that the guy does. And this time I spent more money at his booth again and immediately recognized his artwork and his style and everything. And I was like, okay, I know I liked all of his stuff, so I'll definitely be spending money there. So there's definitely, it's cool to see a lot of the same people since it's Michigan Horror and Oddity festivals. It's going to be similar people. So
yeah,
kind of make connections with other artists and stuff like that.
Well, that's actually, you reminded me of something I wanted to bring up. That's true. What you're talking about, the money is probably a big factor because people went there looking for what people were selling. Like, they're into that. That's why they paid the money to get in. So it's like, it's more like than not a money thing instead of a lack of good talent or good art or even, knickknacks or whatever everybody was selling. Because they wouldn't have been there if they weren't interested in what people had. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. And anything like a horror and oddity fest attracts a very specific crowd of people. So you're not going to go to that unless you're, yeah, definitely me. You're not going to go to that unless there's something that appeals to you about that type of artwork.
I agree with you.
What have you been up to though? That was my big update for the weekend, at least.
Okay, so my big thing that I wanted to talk about is I have, after years of putting it off, decided to finally write a book. So, a lot of the last week since me and Hunter, well, me and Hunter have spoken since, but since we've recorded, has been brainstorming, outlining. It's ideas that I've had in my head for quite a few years, so I already had a whole lot there. I just needed to kind of jot it down. And within, I mean, I don't know how fast it is for most people who write books, but somebody like me who wasn't a big English person in school, wasn't into the classes, wasn't really into writing what I'm told to write. I more like to do what I like to do. I'm 6,000 words in less than a week of something completely fresh, not even a single thing jotted down until I don't even know, maybe Tuesday, Thursday. So within a week, I'm quite through it. So I will keep people updated on that. Hunter's going to be helping me along the way, kind of giving me some good feedback, and I'll keep everybody up to date on how all that's going. Other than that, I might have some good news about work on the horizon, but I think everything's just been kind of business as usual. Me and Jess sent out all of our wedding invitations, and that's pretty exciting, actually. I don't know if Hunter got his or not, but I've been getting texts all day that they are starting to arrive at people's houses. So, yeah, that's what I've been up to.
I haven't checked my mail today yet. I haven't checked my mail today, so that'd be exciting. That'll definitely be going up on the fridge if we got it. That is really exciting. I feel like it makes it a lot more real. Like, it makes it feel a lot closer when people are starting to get the invitations, the date is picked out and everything, the venue is selected.
Yeah, the bank account already knew this was real, but no, I feel you. Like, we're really dialing in.
Yeah,
we're really dialing
sure.
in. Me and my dad are supposed to go get me a suit soon. I think we might be going to Chicago for that. But, yeah, I mean, we're just kind of going to focus on, getting everything paid off, and I think we're pretty close to being all set with everything. It'll start getting busy once we get closer, but I think we did a lot of what we needed to do this far out. So that's some good news. We're getting there. Soon to be Miss Prez is out there. I'm pretty excited.
It's one step at a time. There's a lot of stuff that goes into a wedding. I had helped my older brother out with a lot of the stuff for his wedding and was the best man in his wedding, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of prep, and just one step at a time.
Yeah.
It is. I'm excited. I know Bailey's excited too.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of why I think I'm a little bit more excited I haven't been to a lot of weddings, if I'm being honest with you, outside of, like, my family. But I think what I'm most excited about and what I think a lot of my friends would be excited about is I keep all of my friends together. Like, a lot of my friends from different groups, different ways I've met them, a lot of them meet each other on a regular basis when I have parties, when I do stuff like Hunter, obviously, and a lot of my friends who would be listening. I mean, if I go hang out with people and they're just like, yeah, bring whoever, like, I'll bring other friends. Like, Hunter has basically met everybody that will be at the wedding. So it's always nice when you go to a wedding when you could probably go up to any table and talk to somebody. Like, it makes it a lot less boring.
It definitely makes it a lot more exciting. It's easier to mingle with people, and sometimes it feels a little bit almost stuffy when nobody knows each other, and it's like just kind of like friends and family that maybe have never interacted or very loosely interacted, and it's kind of a little bit slow until people start drinking or the music comes on, kind of thing. But I feel like it'll be a great time because, like you're saying, everyone already kind of has some rapport, they already have relationships, and I think there'll be a lot of good trouble at this wedding.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I know the biggest bummer is I know I'm probably not going to be able to drink too much. I mean, I don't want to spend all this money and have, like, this amazing wedding with the love of my life just to, like, be drunk and forget it all. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the trick. I'm gonna get you hammered after everything's done. Once the dancing happens and everything's out of the way, all the important stuff has happened, then we'll get you hammered.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm definitely going to have some beers, and you got to have a few tequila shots with the homies, but all in all, I got to keep my head straight because I definitely want to remember everything. And I think me and her are lucky. We're doing our honeymoon a few weeks after, so it's like we can kind of, like, dry out, reevaluate, because my honeymoon is where I'll probably be having like a lot more. That might be a little bit more fuzzy, you know, just sitting in the sun with your wife. I mean, it's just going to be crazy. Plus, we're going down to the hottest part of the earth during the summer months. It's going to be wicked, dude. I'm so excited.
That does sound awesome, but I'm going to make you regret saying that you're not going to drink that much because there'll be 1 million tequila shots.
1 million on the dot, and they need to be drank
On
by
the
12
dot.
o'clock.
You know, if you
You know
comment
what?
anything on this podcast, make sure to comment 1 million tequila shots to start building up the peer pressure months in advance. I've heard of
Listen.
21 shots for your 21st birthday. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. But 1 million tequila shots for your wedding is a great idea. I don't know what could go wrong.
Listen, somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. I'm ready for it. I'm up for it. But
The chosen
okay.
one.
So, boo. All right, there's our next 1-star review. God, we're not doing fucking hot this time. That's fucking rough, dude. Tomato.
Oh, I'll do it again. I will be doing that again.
Oh, God. All right, so let's go back to where we were going, because I kind of had a little bit of a theme on this podcast, and I seen that you kind of overviewed my notes. So, since we haven't really touched on music a lot, I figured I would give you some updates on my current findings as I've been trying to experience more music. Would you be interested in hearing those?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Metallica's Booty Cheeks.
There's the next 1-star review.
Dude. So for those who know me and those who don't, I will give you a quick overview. Emo and punk are like my two go-tos. Emo and punk. Love them, can't get enough of them. I'll listen to the same shitty bands over and over and over again every single day till the day I die. This is how I rock and roll. But metal, I'm a little bit more touchy about. So I prefer screaming. I prefer shorter songs because I'm a punk fan. I like my music to be short and sweet. But a lot of screaming, shorter songs, maybe some good guitar solos. I really just like what I like, which you guys will see when I go on to the next artist I've wanted to talk about. But thrash is something that's new to me. My fiance got me into it. Very new. But a lot of like the 80s metal where it's just 8-minute songs where they're kind of doing like mid riffs that you heard 100 times when you're shopping at Kmart. I'm not really into that. So Metallica, I've been trying my hardest. I'm like, you know what? I want to stop being edgy. I want to stop being so bullheaded. Now that we got this podcast, I want to try to actually open my horizons because as Hunter knows, and you guys will find out, I do not give an inch. I'm unrelenting, and it's very frustrating, especially when it comes to music. I'm the biggest snob in the world. And I've been trying, dude. I listened to like 7 of their albums straight, and there's maybe like 1 or 2 good songs on each album. And out of the good songs, I'll maybe only save 1. It's just so mid to me. Like,
I mean, do you like the classics at least, like Master of Puppets?
no. I'll show you. I'll tell you what.
For
I
Whom
have
the
saved.
Bell Tolls? Do you like? For Whom
That's
the
their
Bell
greatest song.
Tolls?
That is the best song they've made.
Okay,
and
I
probably
can
one of the best
agree.
metal songs ever made. That song's so good.
Yeah, that one is very good. At least you believe that.
Okay.
I was gonna be scared if you're like, no, that song sucks too. I was gonna be like, oh no.
Yeah, For Whom the Bell Tolls and Seek and Destroy are probably some of the best metal songs ever made. But so I listened to 6 albums. I have 4 songs saved. Eye of the Beholder, Seek and Destroy, From Whom the Bell Tolls, and Escape. Those are the 4 songs I listened to quite a bit, I think up until the 90s, and it's not super impressive. I'm not feeling too hot about where I'm going. I took a little break so that I could tell Hunter that I hate them because I don't want to hear something I like and then I have to like, and I'm not going to lie about it. So I'm happy living in my negativity right now. But the next one I wanted to tell you about that I found out, and Jess just rolled her eyes when I told her. I discovered a Miss Olivia Rodrigo. I don't know. Do you know who she is?
I don't think anyone's ever heard of her before. She's not one of the biggest pop stars on the planet.
Okay. Well, I didn't fucking know. Get off my back.
Metallica, bad metal music. Olivia Rodrigo, incredible metal music.
I'm not denying what you're saying. All I'm saying is that I like it a lot. So I was at the gym and I was like, oh, I haven't listened to my pop playlist in quite a long time. A lot of it's just kind of Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish. But I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Oh, and a lot of Jonas Brothers. I'm not even going to try to hide that. So I was listening to it, but I have it on that shuffle. Do you have Spotify, Hunter?
Yes. Well,
Is that your main music?
I don't currently have it. I actually have like a free trial for Apple Music, so I've been using that.
Boo.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer Spotify, but I am writing out my free pass for now.
You might as well, honestly.
Yeah, I'm cheap. I would like to just if it's free, I can tolerate a lot.
I get
Not
that.
gonna lie.
That's kind of where I'm at too. But I when I went to college, they gave me that little student thing where you get Hulu and Spotify for $5, and I've just been grandfathered throughout the years. So I'm just sticking with it, and I'm rocking and rolling. But so I was on my playlist, and I'm listening to the music, and I'm like, God damn, it's just banger after banger. Like I said, I listen to the best music. Whatever you listen to, not as good as what I'm listening to. But then I heard this one song. Oh yeah, a lot of Sabrina Carpenter too. So I was listening to this one song, and I'm like, I've never heard this before. And I looked at it, and I was like, Olivia Rodrigo, who the fuck is that? I've never heard of her. Lame.
Hilarious.
I click on it, and I start listening to she only got like 2 albums, so I listen to the 2 albums, and I'm like, oh, I've heard every single one of these songs by osmosis, but I never really knew who it was. Her first album is so fucking good, dude. Like, probably for me, I don't know, maybe 8 out of 10. Really, really good. I like it. Got some okay songs, got some really fucking good ones. Second album was okay. I mean, it's a different direction. I mean, people grow. I mean, she's young, so people grow, go different directions. Not really my thing. But I think when it comes to music, that's what I wanted to tell you was Metallica's Cheeks, Olivia Rodrigo, Pass the Test. Oh, and there was one more band. I can't remember that. Oh, One Step Closer. If I don't know if you've ever heard of them or if anybody listening has heard of them
personally.
So they're like a harder emo band, like a lot of like the screaming of Hawthorne Heights, a lot, repetitive drum beats. Newer band, I think only a few years old. I listened to 3 of their albums and I really like what I hear. So check out One Step Closer, and a little well-known pop artist, Olivia Rodrigo. I know you guys have never heard of her, but check her out too, and stay away from Metallica.
Is this band you're talking about? Do you think that they're harder than Metallica, but not quite as hard as Olivia Rodrigo?
Well, she's on a different planet, and the One Step Closer is just, they're on a high pedestal. Metallica's in the ground, and I drove over them, like Roadkill, I drove over them a bunch of times. Or Jeepers Creepers in the first movie when they hit him and then they go back and run over him 8 more times. That's me with Metallica. Yes, that's how I feel about them.
I just can't believe that we're at 0 stars for our podcast. It's our third one we'll ever post. We're gonna have
probably the last
Gerard Way angry post right on our podcast. We're gonna have Metallica fans review bombing us. Yeah.
I don't think Metallica fans are listening to podcasts. They're probably drinking Coors Light, beating their wives, driving their truck that they can't afford. I'll cut that out. Sorry, Hunter.
Oh, man. Oh, God damn it. Well, I do think that there's a real chance that Metallica fans have never heard of a podcast before, but... Well, I do have one thing I'm excited to talk about.
What's that, bro?
There's not too much to say about it yet, but some of the initial reviews for Civ 7 have started rolling in.
Oh, jeez.
I've seen a lot of 7s for Civ 7. A lot of people. I guess that's
accurate.
So what it sounds like to me is that a lot of people who played Civ 6 never finished a game. Most of the people who played Civ 6 apparently never finished a single match of the game. So they felt that they needed to make the game less complicated, more accessible, which I am sort of a fan of, as long as it doesn't lose kind of what the game is about.
Right.
but it seems like a lot of people are pretty unhappy with how far they went with the simplicity. I am excited to see where it ended up on that line. Like I think Civ 5 is more complicated than 6 on average.
Okay.
I think 6, the most complicated thing is planning out districts. But I have a controversial opinion to share now too. One of my favorite Civ games was Civilization Revolution for the Xbox.
Hell yeah.
And it was because the game is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It was a great way to get people into Civ because a lot of people, you kind of try and show them how to play the game and their eyes glaze over. There's just so
Right.
much stuff, especially in Civ 4 and 5. So I liked that it was accessible as a way to get people kind of their feet wet, get them to kind of see the idea behind the game, what's fun about it without being bogged down by all of the specifics.
Yeah.
So
of course.
I'm actually excited to hear that it's a little bit simpler, that maybe the games are supposed to be a lot faster, which I think is very
See,
appealing
I like
because
that.
I have played some 40-hour Civilization campaigns with my
Awesome.
brother, and it's awesome. It's epic. I feel like you'll still be able to get that out of the game if you play on some of the slower game modes, because typically you
Yeah.
can choose your pacing anyway. So like if that's what you want, I feel like you'll still be able to get that out of the game. But
Right.
most people, I think, who are playing video games and dipping their feet for the first time into kind of a turn-based strategy game like Civ, I feel like want it to be accessible. They want it to make sense. And I think I'm excited about that fact, but I think it's interesting because it seemed like a lot of the reviews didn't like that fact about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't seen the reviews. I wish I would have looked beforehand. That's on me. I know the game is out now for like early access, right? I have not looked, so that's on me. I think the way that I play games is I definitely do prefer them to be a little bit more on the shorter side. So that's probably going to be better for people like me. I think as long as players have the ability, because Civ 6 was just so goddamn big. Like, I mean, I don't even think I had really even heard too much about. I'm not a PC gamer, by the way, guys, but I haven't really heard too much about Civilization between Revolution and 6. Like, Revolution was huge and 6 was just gigantic. Like, everybody had it. So as long as you can still get the feeling that people fell in love with 6, because I think it did enter in a bunch of new players, I think it's good that they can make it simpler too for regular people like me who don't really want it to be weeks and weeks on end of a game, or even just mechanics, because I get really excited when I start playing a game I really want to play, and sometimes I just miss stuff because I'm just so excited to get into the meat of it. So I guess the less complicated it is, and the ability to make it more complicated, I think would be a very, very nice gauge to give everybody what they want, because it really is that simple to give everybody what they want. You want it to be simpler, that's fine. Harder, that's fine. And then those are literally the only two groups you kind of got to pander to.
I think that's fair.
But I do know I'm excited for it. I know I won't be able to get it until after I've beaten Avowed, but it's up there for sure. Like, it's one of the games that I've been really excited about. I think it'll be good for it to be out for a few months too, so that the tweaks can get fixed before I really start diving into it.
Yeah, I definitely think for most of the Civ games, the best time to play them is once there's been a series of patches and DLC for the game to really flesh it out, because they do tend to be released a bit bare bones. Like 6, when it first came out, I didn't like it that much, but by the time they had released all the new content for it and the different game modes and everything, I thought it was a great game. So I think that with most Civ games, it's better to wait than to just jump in initially. But I'm a masochist. I might buy it immediately. Find out.
Well, I have a question for you since you bring that up.
Okay.
What is it about newer editions of games having less than the past edition, and then it being released as DLC? Do you think it's just money? Because
Absolutely.
like Sims and Civ, like they already had it figured out, so why did they have to add more stuff in DLC wise? And if this game doesn't have the stuff that was added on the DLC, then I guess that kind of just proves my point. But what do you think about that? I think it's so frustrating, and I will not buy a game for that exact fact.
I personally think that there's a huge disconnect in game design between the actual game designers and the financial team and what they're pushing on those people.
Of course.
I think I think that a lot of people who make games have a lot of love for video gaming, have a lot of love for the world building. They want to make a really cool and awesome product that is memorable, that is, because even just on a basic level, it's career insurance. If you make a game that's really good, you have that forever on your resume to be like, I made this game, it was really awesome. But I think that there's just so much external pressure on game designers and on the teams to release a game incredibly rapidly and for is the best ratio between their return on their investment and the initial investment. And I think that kind of just leads to games coming out not fleshed out because they need the game to release. They need it to have enough content where people can sit down and play the game. So what typically is immediately on the chopping board is the number of maps, the number of weapons, the stuff that they don't have time to balance out and get all the kinks out of the game. And that's a way for them to kind of make up on the marketing quota for, okay, well, we're going to get $60 up front, and then for the next 6 months, we have 2 map packs already done that we're not going to release with the base game. And then we can be working on the next years of content.
Yeah, that seems especially prevalent now compared to back in the day where games used to launch, with like 15 maps. Now, what? 4 to 8? Settings, like there are games like Halo, for example, that they just don't even release and honestly never end up being released in patches or DLC. Stuff that was integrated in the second and the third game. Like games, I think like you said, it's being rushed out. There's a disconnect. I just think that games are made super lazily nowadays, and I'm actually not mad that it seems like a lot of games are like, oh, not ready. We'll put it out when it's ready. We'll let you know. Like, I would rather have a ready game, like we've already talked about, because I think a lot of people are just fed up, and a lot of people just aren't going to buy the game anymore, especially now that there's a price hike and a quality dive. No, it's not working for me. The numbers don't add up.
Yeah, I just simply do not buy any of the reskinned open world kind of games anymore. I try not to support the lazy designs. I don't buy the new Call of Duties anymore, even though I used to enjoy those games a lot. I don't buy the new Assassin's Creeds. I don't buy...
Absolutely not.
It's sad to see because some of these games are just so iconic, and it's just such a big... It does so much damage to the consumer trust, you know what I mean? It just makes people not trust these games and these companies, and it's tough because so many people are going to buy them anyway because they don't want to get the FOMO of missing out on the first couple weeks of the new Call of Duty game is the best time to play it, typically, in regards to the number of people playing it. The first couple weeks is when everyone's talking about it on social media for like games like Assassin's Creed and the story or whatever, and it's people don't want that FOMO, but in not wanting to get that fear of, or having that fear of missing out, they kind of miss out on being selective with their content, and they end up rewarding companies who are very lazy with their game design and with their product.
I agree with you very much. I'm in the same boat with you. I think that's exactly it. But I do think that a lot of the people that have the money nowadays to even buy the games, they're probably our age, obviously a little bit younger because we're in our late 20s now. But like a little bit younger than us to older, and it's like we just don't have time to spend $70 on every game that comes out if it's going to be booty cheeks. Like I want the game, if I'm going to spend that much money and I'm going to put what little time I have, which nowadays between these new ventures I'm having with you, doing stuff for the wedding, writing, I have even less time. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat. Like they work long hours, they come home, they try to go to the gym, they try to take care of their kids, their wives. Like they can't spend $70 on a game that's going to be like mid. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's definitely not sustainable.
Oh, I have actually related to this. I have a quick question for you since I'm hammering you with them. What is it about the game scaling system that seems so skewed nowadays? Like when people see a 7, they think, oh, it's a bad game. And they only want 9s and 10s. Like 5 is a middle of the road game, like where it's like, oh, not bad, not good. 5. Why is 5 like a 0 nowadays? What is that?
I think that the market is so saturated now that a lot of people don't want to waste their time with a game that's a 5. I think that there's more video games now than ever, and there's only going to be more and more. There's going to be more game companies, there's going to be more studios, there's going to be more releases, there's going to be more series of games, there's going to be And I think that makes the market so saturated that people don't want to waste their time on a game that's a 5 or a 6 when there's hundreds of games coming out every year between indie companies and major releases. So I feel like people maybe don't see a 7 as being a failing grade for a game, but they see a 7 as being not worthwhile when they have limited time to engage with products, and they'd rather be focusing on 9s and 10s.
Yeah, I guess so. But also, I even mean, like, from the people who rate the game, though, it'll be a game that's completely unplayable, really bad storyline, bad voice acting, and then they'll give it a 5. And it's like, no, this should be a 1. But it's like 5 is like the new 0, and 10 is it's like a 5-star review at this point. Like, you either have 0 or you have 5. So, like, I don't understand why we're ignoring all the rest of it. And I agree with you. Like, a lot of people are, like, skipping out on it because, honestly, I do get a 70 is probably not worth it for a lot of people, but 60 and up is like a pretty playable game if you're being honest. Like, if we're being honest, and we're being really loose with 9s and 10s nowadays. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, a 9 or a 10 should be one of the greatest games ever made. You know, a Red Dead, a Cyberpunk, any
3.
Nintendo major game. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense how it's a game that plays good with 5 maps and has a story that doesn't make you want to kill yourself, and that's an 8 or a 9. Like, it's so skewed, and it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah, I think that one thing that would help is to maybe make kind of a unified scale for it, because I do think that different companies tend to review games differently. You know, like there's
Fair,
what
fair.
a 7 means to IGN isn't the same thing of what a 7 would mean to me or you even, you know.
Yeah.
Like I think that
Yeah.
I think similar to like if you look at Rotten Tomatoes for movies, like I think the audience score and the critic score is very different. You know, like
You're so
it's
right about that.
they're looking for something different in the product than the other person is.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's no unified grading scale for that. Like, there's a lot of games I've played that I think are a 9 or a 10 that probably didn't even get close to that, and like what IGN is rating it or something like that.
That's fair.
And
I get what you mean.
I do think that's sort of a common experience. Hopefully, one day there's some sort of unified rating scale, or like maybe some specific criteria as to what makes a game what score. But as of now, I feel like it's almost vibes based, you know, like what does the specific reviewer like or dislike?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess that makes sense to a certain point, but like, then that one specific person should always be doing the ratings. They shouldn't have multiple people doing the ratings at the same companies who all have different likes and dislikes.
Right.
I don't know. That's something that's always bothered me because it just doesn't make any sense. If you say something's like a 5 or a 6, people are like, "Ooh, that's horrible." It's like it's really not. It just means it's middle of the road. And I'm gonna be honest, guys. Most media that you intake, books, TV, music, movies, games, most of it is just middle of the road. Generic, cookie cutter, same stuff. That doesn't mean it's bad. A lot of people have the same TV shows that they'll watch over and over again. That's probably just a regular generic show or a game that they'll play over and over again. Like, middle of the road is very normal for people. It's very comfortable for people. So I don't know why it's just been labeled bad all of a sudden.
Some examples of middle of the road are Metallica, My Chemical Romance.
Are you kidding me? I was thinking like 2, 3 on a good day if I'm in a mood. Come on. You're being too generous with them. Oh, you gave me angina. Thanks.
Oh yeah, no problem.
All right, so I got something for you. Something that I actually enjoy.
Okay.
So, as you guys know, I've been watching Star Wars like crazy, and I've been going through chronologically. And I got to my favorite movie out of all of them, Episode 3. So, what I've been doing is I was watching the Clone Wars all the way up to when Episode 3 starts. And in the last season of the Clone Wars, you see Anakin and Obi-Wan leave. And when they leave, that is the start of Episode 3 for them, while Ahsoka Tano is doing her own thing. So I watched her story up to when she went to Coruscant, which coincides with Order 66, so I stopped there. I watched all of Episode 3, almost cried again. Fucking love Anakin. I feel so bad for him that he's treated that way. And then I finished Clone Wars. which, like I said, it coincides with the end of episode 3, and then those two stories are kind of woven together. Great ending to a show, by the way. I'm super excited to see Ahsoka at later stuff. But then I started The Bad Batch, which takes place, you guessed it, during episode 3. So, in the same day, I watched episode 3, the end of the Clone Wars, and I started The Bad Batch. And literally the opening scene of The Bad Batch is the Clone Wars logo burning away and the Bad Batch logo being under it. And it literally starts at Order 66. So I watched 3 different shows and 3 different perspectives of the exact same events. It was so fucking awesome. It is probably my favorite thing Star Wars has ever done. And if you ever have like the time, Hunter, to just spend I guess episode 3 is 2 hours, but the 2 hours for that, the 20 minutes for the 2 episodes, 20 minutes each, and then the first 10 minutes of the episode of Bad Batch, it's crazy. So it's I'd say about 3 hours altogether, and then you get to see this whole interwoven story from all over the galaxy. It's so badass. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen Star Wars wise.
I have always thought about doing something along those lines because of how out of order Star Wars is, with if you actually watch it in the order that it comes out. I feel like it would be very cool to consume it that way. It's something maybe when I get Disney Plus back, that's something I could embark on. That would definitely be a long journey, but
I think Clone Wars and Rebels are the 2 longest shows. And you probably just need to watch the first season and the last season of each to get a good gist of what are they doing, who is everybody, and where did they end up at. I enjoyed the Clone Wars, but I didn't care for the last few seasons. They weren't bad by any means. Just a lot of the stories were just You could tell that they were trying to wrap up the show, and it was just oh, whatever. But honestly, when you watch all the movies and then all of the shorter shows that are maybe, they range from 10 minutes an episode to 20 minutes an episode, I feel like it really does fill in some of the holes because you got to think, me and you, we grew up where it was literally just the 6 movies. And for some people who listen to this, they might have grown up with just the 3 movies. And then they got that booty cheeks movie, Phantom Menace. I actually like Phantom Menace a lot, but I have issues with some of it. So it's just exciting to see new stories, new stuff. I don't really have a lot of the hangups that a lot of people have. I just like something Star Wars, and I will either like the story or I won't. That's that. I mean, it's hard for it to fuck up, for them to mess up when it's something that I'm so deeply interested in.
I am pretty lax when it comes to my enjoyment of stuff like Star Wars because to me there is some really good storytelling in Star Wars, but I feel like for me it's always just been I really like the setting. I like most of the characters. I like the idea of the show. I can just kind of not turn my brain off in that I'm not enjoying or consuming the content and thinking about it, but turn my brain off in that I can just enjoy what's unfolding on the screen in front of me. So exactly. I tend to be definitely a lot looser when it comes to, some people are very hard on the prequels or very hard on the new movies, and honestly I think they're all pretty entertaining. I grew up with the prequels, the 3 prequel movies that kind of were coming out as we were growing up, so I really love those movies a lot. And when the as they were coming out, I thought they were so cool. Honestly, Attack of the Clones was one of my favorite Star Wars movies for a long time. Good. Just because I distinctly remember watching that one in theaters. I remember how excited my brother, my dad, and I were when we went and saw it. I remember I got a little R2-D2 toy, and when he flew in that movie, I was so excited. I made him fly all over the place or whatever when I was in elementary school or whatever, because I just thought that was so awesome, because R2-D2 has always been one of my favorite characters. Yeah. He's the only character in cinema history that had to bleep out every single word he said. That's awesome.
He's got a bad mouth on him.
And just R2-D2 and C-3PO's interactions are some of the funniest to me in all of Star Wars. So I don't know. I love the characters. I love the setting. I love Obi-Wan Kenobi. So anything that has Obi-Wan Kenobi in it is going to be good to me. So
I actually heard a pretty interesting idea about Star Wars, about how R2-D2 is kind of, what would you say, the protagonist, the main character, because a lot of the movies are set through his lens. He's always there watching the scenes unfold. And I find that really interesting, especially because I want to read some of the Star Wars books, the Star Wars movies made into books. I forgot what that's called, like the written version of it. And a lot of the point of views for what's going on with Anakin and how everything's playing out is through R2D2, in how you start to get like this really gray idea of what he's doing, and it's because he doesn't talk to him anymore. Like Anakin doesn't talk to him anymore. So it's like it starts to really mess with the perspective of how the books are going. I find that really interesting. I never really considered it that way. Growing up though, Clone Wars was my favorite as well. Like I liked Attack of the Clones the most. I love Count Dooku, so it's very Count Dooku heavy. I was a big fan of that. And it wasn't until I was more like movie literate, script literate, like where I paid more attention to the background noise, to where episode 3 became my favorite, because there's just so much turmoil and you really start to see a lot of stuff come together. So I just appreciate it a lot more, especially with all these TV shows where you really get even a bigger glimpse into how Anakin was treated, how he felt about Padme, really felt about her. And it just shows like why everything happened the way it did. And it's like you kind of actually feel for the bad guy more than you do any of the good guys.
I do think that when it comes to Anakin Skywalker, he's one of the most three-dimensional characters in all of the movies, because most of the Jedi are pretty stagnant. You know, they're flat characters. They have the same ideals, they have the same emotions or lack of. Sometimes they have the same convictions.
Mace Windu,
they
we're
don't,
talking about you.
Yeah, I mean he's a big one I'm talking about, but those characters, they don't have that much emotional range. And like the though even like part of the reason why Obi-Wan is one of my favorite characters is because he does change throughout the prequels and the original movies. Like you can see how things affected him. His relationship with Anakin affected him. The way that the Jedi treated Anakin affected him. The way that Qui-Gon Jinn passed away and that this responsibility was put on him affected him. But so many of the characters in the movies that are Jedi are kind of just flat characters, you know. So I think that Anakin is actually an interesting and dynamic and changing character, and you know you get to witness that all through the movies. Whereas a lot of the other characters that are cool characters and enjoyable just don't change. They're not actually that interesting outside of the fact that they're badasses.
I found it actually really interesting. One of the little short series that Disney made was like Tales of the Jedi. It's like 10-minute episodes, and a lot of it focuses on Count Dooku and his fall to the dark side. And Qui-Gon Jinn was his Padawan at the time. So Qui-Gon got a lot of experience with how the Jedi were wrong on so many different levels, and how it drove a very talented, very strong, very good and loyal Jedi to the dark side, because he was sick of seeing all of like the sadness and the hurt, and how his temper, he like lost that medium composure, and he kind of gained empathy, because the Jedi really don't have empathy. And I think that if Qui-Gon would have survived, the story would have been completely different. You understand why they had to nerf him immediately, because he had already been through this with his master, and he probably could have been there and actually showed the compassion that Anakin needed, because Obi-Wan was too young to take on literally the strongest, most emotionally unstable boy in the galaxy in 1,000 years. Like, it's just, he wasn't ready for it. And that's, a lot of it. Also the fact that a lot of the other Jedi mentors, like you said, have no empathy. They didn't care about how Anakin really felt. Mace Windu, literally the second most powerful, most influential Jedi, hated Anakin, literally up until Anakin had to kill him. So it kind of shows a lot of, like, it just, if Qui-Gon would have survived, it would have been a completely different story. So it's very interesting to think about it that way.
Yeah, I think Qui-Gon was the only one that could actually have trained Anakin through those extreme emotions with his mother and what happened on Tatooine. Just Obi-Wan was too young.
He was too young, and he also allowed him to be with Padme. As they've kind of made more shows, they kind of fleshed out that he kind of knew that Anakin was with Padme, and it's like, this is a very dangerous and unstable individual. You know him. He raised him. So it's like, you know how he is. You should have probably nudged him to leave the order, or you should have probably stopped that. And he didn't, because, he just didn't know how to handle these situations, because, he's just so fucking young. He's just so inexperienced.
Well, in a lot of ways, he grew up with Anakin, so I feel like the line
Yeah.
between mentor and apprentice was very much blurred. And even in 3, they talk about like you were like the famous line, like you were like a brother to me, and it's like he was almost more like an older brother than he was actually like a religious teacher or like a Jedi master to him. And so I feel
Yeah.
like it's very different, to tell your student like this is a bad path to go down versus telling someone that you view as your sibling like this is a bad path to go down.
Yeah. No, I do get what you mean. And I also think that Obi-Wan isn't, I mean, you're not supposed to have emotional attachments by any means, which is just so dumb if you're the peacekeepers to not have emotional attachment. But he loved Anakin on like a level that like most people just don't experience. Like you have like maybe some family, but you might not even get along with them. Like he loved Anakin, and that also was his downfall. Obi-Wan allowed a lot of this to happen because of his strong emotional attachment. So we couldn't tell Anakin he couldn't have it when he had it for him as like his brother, his son. I mean, he raised him. It's just so crazy to think about all that.
There's one other thing that I do really like about Attack of the Clones that I forgot to mention is that I think the Geonosians are some of the coolest aliens in Star Wars. I
Really?
love
Why is
them.
that?
I just think they're so cool. I like that they're bug guys. I like their dialect a lot that they have and the way that they kind of like
Yeah.
have like the clicking and they're talking a little bit. And I don't know. I just think they're so cool. And like Star Wars Battlefront 2, when you could play as them in like the hunt mode, I used to do that all the time when I was a kid because I just thought the Geonosians were so awesome.
It's also interesting that they're like little bug guys, but then they're like the industrial power of the Separatists. Like this one little desert planet makes everything for them to be able to have a rebellion.
Yeah.
Like it shows their prowess, like how important they are if you really think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it shows like them and the what are the people from Camino called?
The Kaminoans.
Yeah. That if you think about it, like them and the Geonosians are like the most influential alien races in the prequels. When you consider that like most of what happened couldn't really unfold without the droids for the Separatists and the clones.
Well, even in the original trilogy, I mean, it's still kind of accurate because Boba Fett is kind of like an antagonist for 2 movies. So there's also that. I mean, they're still decades later. They're still decades later fucking with the Skywalker family. Like, damn, get a life.
No, that's some peak hater behavior. I actually really respect that a lot. He is to the Skywalker family what you are to Metallica and Gerard Way.
The biggest fans?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
Check us out. We are finally actually getting these posted now, which is super exciting. We touched on that earlier, but this will be our 3rd official episode of the podcast. Make sure you check us out. We now have a Reddit page, so feel free to post any questions, comments, concerns, or just general discussion about any of these pieces of media, whether it's music, cinema, TV, video games, whatever it might be. We would love to get some discussions going on there. And we would also love for anyone to email us or DM us on any of the social media websites with any sort of questions that you have, either about the podcast or just questions for Juan or I about really anything, and we're thinking about kind of making this ending segment a lot of question and answers, so feel free to reach out to us, and we are also very receptive to feedback. We've appreciated everyone who has reached out to Juan or I and told us something they do or don't like, and we are definitely taking that to heart. We're taking it seriously, and we are excited for what is to unfold in the future for this podcast.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now,
all right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you for joining us again. Hunter, thank you for being a great friend and helping me get this off the ground. Couldn't have done it without you. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great time, everyone. Peace out.